Hello Newsmark viewers. We continue to bring you all the hot developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. As you know, the war continues. All the events related to the war process are also a harbinger of possible scenarios to be experienced in the coming days. In times of war, issues such as human rights come to the fore. These concepts, which states use as a tool for their own interests, actually have an important infrastructure. The news that emerged the other day showed that Russia has applied an inconceivable method. Russia, which exhibits behaviors contrary to human rights, made us say that this is no longer the case with its latest move. The most important difference that distinguishes states from bandits is that they have a system of law and justice. If the state starts behaving like a bandit, chaos ensues. In the war between Russia and Ukraine, there were many reports on human rights violations. These practices will be a problem for Moscow for many years to come and will sooner or later be brought to the attention of international courts. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is now in its third year. The sides continue their mutual offensives, but the Ukrainian offensive seems to have thoroughly crippled the Russian troops. Recent reports suggest that the Russian military is looking for different methods. It is known that the Ukrainian army has been bombarding Russian targets intensively due to its increased firepower. In addition, dozens of Russian targets were hit in one night in the operation carried out the previous day. Stating that the Ukrainian army's ammunition stocks are in very good condition, Kyiv officials stated that there will be bigger operations in the coming days. Moscow forces, on the other hand, made a rather surprising move. Russian troops attempted to use civilians living in the conflict zone as human shields. Now, if you are ready, let's examine the latest developments together. As Newsmark, we continue to bring you developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. I also read all your comments on our videos. Please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments with us in the comments. Tell us in the comments what content you would like to see on the Newsmark channel. Let's start if you are ready. Newsmark reports, Russian forces have captured dozens of civilians in the border town of Vovchansk, a Ukrainian official said, with a senior regional police officer accusing them of using captives as human shields. Moscow has stepped up its offensive in northern Ukraine. Last week it launched its most surprising operation in the two-year war, crossing the northern border in new attempts to take Kharkiv, the country's second most populous city. Vovchansk in the northern Kharkiv region faced an offensive by Russian forces who claimed control of surrounding villages and forced civilians to flee. The cross-border offensive came at a difficult timing for Kyiv. Major General Vadim Skibitsky, deputy head of Ukraine's defense intelligence, said last week, "Our problem is very simple. We have no weapons." They always knew that April and May would be a difficult period for us. Few analysts expect the Russians to expand their border offensive westward into the Sumy region, which has seen months of raids by Russian special forces. In fact, the Russians have the manpower to stretch Ukrainian defenses along multiple attack points hundreds of kilometers apart, forcing Kyiv to guess where and when an expected early summer offensive will take place. Serhiy Bolvanov, the head of the Kharkiv Regional Police's investigation department, told the public broadcaster the other day that Russian troops were holding about 40 civilians in a basement near their command headquarters. Referring to Russia's internal security agency, Bolvanov said people were being interrogated and those conducting the interrogations call themselves FSB employees, adding that captives were being used as human shields. He said the captives were mostly elderly people who did not want to evacuate until the end and were captured when they finally decided to go to Ukrainian-controlled territory. Bolvanov said an elderly Vovchansk resident was killed by Russian soldiers after he refused to obey their orders and tried to escape on foot. The details come a day after Ukrainian Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko said Russians were taking civilians prisoner in northern Vovchansk. "We know about the first cases of executions of civilians by the Russian military," Klimenko said on his social media channel, adding, "In particular, one of the residents of Vovchansk tried to escape on foot, refused to obey the orders of the occupiers, the Russians killed him." He said police investigators had opened a criminal case for violation of the rules of warfare, adding that evacuations were underway in this region. Russian forces launched airstrikes on Kharkiv on Friday, killing at least 3 people and injuring 28 others. Mayor Ihor Terekhov said in a social media post. Ola Sinyhubov, head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, said in a social media post on the day of the incident that the region was hit twice by guided aerial bombs. In a social media update on the morning of the attack, Ola Sinyhubov, head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, said about 10,000 people had been evacuated in the Kharkiv region due to the renewed Russian offensive. As the Russian offensive continues, the Ukrainian army has tightened its control of the areas it holds. The routes of passage of Russian troops, attack targets and many critical points were held. The Ukrainian army, which does not want to give passage to the Russian army, is finalizing its preparations. Evaluating the latest developments the other day, Ukrainian President Zelensky announced that there's positive news about the energy sector. He stated that a lot of effort is needed to further develop the energy sector, which can function despite Russian attacks and threats. He also announced that preparations are already underway for the next heating season, in particular planned repairs and preparation of nuclear generation. Zelensky said that for the reasons stated, a very rational, thoughtful consumption of electricity is needed and measures are being taken, both at the level of the government and at the level of regional and local authorities, as well as at the level of energy companies. We need to ensure that the public is fully informed about how power outages are currently taking place, that there is a peak load, and why we need everyone to be conscious of their consumption, he said. The Ukrainian leader's address to the public quickly reached thousands of people. Zelensky's public speeches, which have become routine, are considered to be very important sources of information about the war process. How do you interpret Russia's behavior towards civilians? Do you think Russia will be held accountable for its actions in international courts? What do you think about the Ukrainian army's conduct of the war? Do you think the Moscow administration is working to address the current human rights violations? We care about your views. Please share them with us.